This will probably be short. So we're wrapping this up, right? This is going to be part 6, but I have to clip each one of my segments before an hour, otherwise my phone can't be, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But that's my limitation. I have to clip it before an hour. So let's do the last few minutes. There might be a commercial at the end. It looks like there's 18 minutes left, roughly. Um, but I can't do more than an hour at a time. Okay? That's my limitation.
Are you concerned about what's going to happen with your other children?
Well, of course I am. Of course I am, but I've already put it at the feet of God. I've already entrusted them to Him. I always have, and I always will. They are in good hands with their grandparents. I daily pray that our family will be restored. That in court it will be shown that this was a tragedy. This was not a crime. There was no ill will involved. There was truly no neglect involved, especially if we're going to take freedom of religion into this. We did everything according to our religion, and Congress is not to pass laws against certain practices of religion, and especially, our religion does not involve killing people or lying or stealing. The ultimate law taught by Christ is, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. To love the Lord your God with all your...
Just as a reminder, this motherfucker malnourished 3 children and one of them died of starvation. Shut the fuck up, asshole.
Heart, mind, and soul. So there's nothing criminal about what we did. It's a tragedy. It was something that was just out of our hands. And these things happen every day. Children die in the doctor's office every day. Go look at the statistics of how many people in this country die every year due to medical malpractice. And doctors don't go to jail because they get things wrong all the time, but they don't get put away for it. And if doctors truly were here to help us so much, if they truly had a heart just to help, their average salary wouldn't be like over $200,000 a year. Mm-hmm. While, many of us who go to see them, would like...
He's hilarious. They probably get about $400,000. I mean, even Dr. Bill's complained about this, that they should be taking more reasonable salaries. But by the way, what's funny is that a lot of doctors are actually Republicans and side with him on a bunch of this bullshit about, we shouldn't have Medicare for all. Because then I can't earn $400,000. This is hilarious. I've heard so many different things over the years, and hearing all these various things. First of all, like watching somebody like this who could be featured on Dateline. Oh my God, even. Wow. All right, let's see what else you got to say.
To make that, and would like to make as much as some of them are making in 1 year, we would like to make that in a decade, And so if they were really here to help, they would not be charging people the way they were. And also further, there is no profit for a doctor in healthy people. People have to be sick, otherwise they have no business.
Wow.
What were your hopes for Mary, and how much does she mean to your family?
He's such a dumbass, because the entire premise behind ACA was getting the younger people involved and mandating that they actually had to participate because they were healthier and less of the risk pool. The risk pool is what, when it comes to insurance, the amount of money you were charged is based on how much risk the insurance company faces. So if you have a lot of people paying premiums on a monthly basis who are less at risk to actually be injured or face health consequences, then the lower the premiums in general can be. That's the entire premise behind ACA. And Trump took that premise away by getting his Supreme Court justices to rule against it and say that you can't mandate that everybody must participate. But the fact is, that was the dumbass Mitt Romney plan. Can't even with this guy. That was the dumbass Mitt Romney plan. That if we get everybody involved, then therefore the premiums will be lower. And this dumbass is like, no, you have to be sick, otherwise they're not making money. You're so stupid, dude. They literally want the healthy people to pay premiums on a monthly basis. This is so hilarious to watch. I mean, but it's hilarious but horrifying at the same time, because a 10-month-old little baby was killed by this stupid-ass motherfucker.
Oh, good God, sir. Let me tell you, every day, with the exception of one or two, because see, one of the reasons why this is such a heartache for us is because Mary had slept for, 16 hours in a period, 18 hours. She'd done it before.
That's incredibly unusual, you dumbass. And that was your third child, so you should have noticed. You should have understood that that was not normal for your infant. But you sought no medical care for your baby. That's why you're in jail right now, dumbass.
Our other children had done it before. And they wake up and they're hungry, and we feed them. Kids go through a growth spurt. I don't know if you're a father or not, but kids go through growth spurts sometimes.
Fat ass, why didn't you share your pizza with them? They were, everybody is saying they were malnourished. You were so fucking foolish. I can't even, you guys. I can't.
Where all they want to do is sleep and then wake up, eat, and go back to bed. So, I would feed her. Every day about 5 o'clock or so, things aren't so regimented. She would get up from her nap, and I would feed her, okay? I would feed her baby food. I would feed her Gerber baby food, chicken and rice or chicken and cheese, apples and turkey. And my wife would be on her break.
Dumbass, you're not even supposed to give cheese to infants. But on top of that, like, I don't know a single parent that would be like, oh yeah, this sounds completely rational. Yeah, my child slept for 16 to 18 hours. None of our kids fucking slept that long, asshole. You were doing something to your kids they were so malnourished that they were lethargic. You're a dumbass, dude. And here you are in jail acting like you don't know why you're in jail because you're a fucking religious zealot. I'm not gonna.
While she's manager McDonald's, and she'd get on the video conference, and I have the history to show this, and on my phone, and I would I'd park the phone right there on Mary's feeding tray, so that my wife would be eating dinner while I'm feeding Mary, okay, and then she'd go, and then I'd pick my darling little baby daughter up, and because I do care for her health, really. I wouldn't just put her right back down after I fed her, because if you do that, they throw up. You gotta, let gravity do its job to bring the.
Oh my God, he doesn't even know. He can't even. He's so lying right now that he can't even talk about like putting a cloth over your shoulder for when they spit up. Like, he doesn't even know the terminology for this because he wasn't doing any of this shit. He wasn't doing any. He's heard about it like lightly from other people, but like he really can't actually describe what it's like to nurse a child. And yes, they do spit up. right? But most infants do not spit up so much that they become emaciated. And that's what he did to his child. He's full of shit.
Food down the digestive tract. So I pick her up and I take her and I rest her head right here and she'd nuzzle into my beard. She'd nuzzle into my neck.
Mm-hmm.
And then she would turn her head outwards and we'd go for a walk up and down our driveway. We have a long driveway and there's trees and there's, animals and grass and a very large garden. And so I would take her and I'd walk with her up and down the driveway and I'd talk to her about the trees and the beautiful blue sky and I'd show her the animals.
Seth, you got to understand that there are people that are going to see this and go, no way. How could someone not notice their daughter is suffering, starving to death, dehydrated?
Right.
Well, because, sir, I said earlier, and I'd appreciate if you're going to ask me questions, I'd appreciate if you didn't cut me off.
Yeah.
So, I would like to finish what I was saying before.
No.
So, my hopes for Mary were, and then also after I give her a walk, I'd often sit her in her stroller, and she'd sit there, in her stroller in the grass, and she would watch the geese and the ducks, and her brother and sister would play with her, and, while they were playing in the driveway while I was working in the garden. So my hopes for her, were just to be a happy child who knows God, and wherever the world would take her, that's up to her. But my highest hope for her, like all my other children and every single human being in this earth, including you, sir, is to know and love the Lord. And
this fat ass piece of shit, religious zealot, reproduced 4 times, you guys. Okay, so don't you ever fucking tell me that women can't have reproductive rights.
So now, if you would like to re-ask your other question, I'd be happy to answer it.
Oh.
Just, there are people who will see this and say there's
sure.
no way possible that someone could not notice their daughter starving to death, dehydrated, to the point where they're dying.
Well, and see, here's the problem, sir, is that, like I said, when people starve to death, they get sickly. And you'd think maybe if she was starving to death, she would cry, right? I think if a baby's that hungry, she's probably going to cry.
So you don't find it weird that she was sleeping 16 to 18 hours a day? You don't find that fucking bizarre? That's not a weird health concern, right? Right, asshole? You killed your 10-month-old baby, for fuck's sake.
And we didn't have that problem. Like I said, she died without a sound in her sleep.
Mm-hmm.
My wife put her down to bed with a full belly full of breast milk.
Okay.
There are dirty diapers in her garbage can, and she died. When they found her body, she had a dirty diaper, showing clearly that she had received nourishment.
Seth, was it you who called 911?
Yes, sir, it was. My wife and I completely cooperated with every aspect of this investigation.
It's our understanding that the person who called 911 said that they thought the death was suspicious.
Oh.
You
Interesting.
are the first one to tell me that. Maybe what I don't recall using the word suspicious. Maybe what happened is they asked me how she died, and I said I have no idea. So that it would be suspicious in that I have no idea what happened.
Did somebody else call?
So that I would take that as suspicious if you go into your baby's room and she's dead, and you have no idea why. That's suspicious. If they're trying to imply any sort of foul play, I'd expect nothing less, especially, no offense, sir, from the news media. I know ratings are, a business and crime sells. Crime pays not only for the criminal, but also for the reporters. So,
are you getting a
but,
paycheck?
the autopsy shows no evidence of physical abuse of any sort. There's no bruising. There's no cuts. There's no scars. There's no evidence of any of that. So, that's an unsubstantiated allegation. So, and Jesus Christ himself said that, people will defame you for my sake, and blessed are you, and people lie and defame and persecute you for his name's sake. So, it doesn't bother me one bit.
If you had...
You are not a disciple of Christ. Christ would have given her fish and bread. You did not do this. Christ would have laid his hands upon her and healed her. That's what Christ would have done. It is fucking disgusting that you're bastardizing Christ's name in your fucking defense. This is so sick.
A chance to say something, one more thing to your daughter that passed away, what would you say to her?
Yeah, what'd you say to her?
Boy, you're looking for a soundbite, aren't you? I'm sorry, I can't give you I love you. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, sir. I wish I had my whole life with her. Saying one thing to her is not enough. I wish I could tell her everything, just like I have my other two children. She could tell them how much I love her, how much I adore her. We had a bond. I don't fear the judgment of man, because God knows how much I love that child. God knows the moments we shared together.
God knows you killed her. Okay? And the right answer, if you were truly innocent, the right answer would be, I wish that I had the science knowledge necessary to figure out what was wrong if it wasn't truly a starvation issue, which I think, based on all the evidence, quite frankly, you starved her to death. But if it was actually some sort of health issue, I would be repenting my sins for not accepting medical advice and not taking her to the doctor, and asking for her forgiveness. And you don't love your daughter. What the fuck are you even doing? Seriously, you starved her to death and you prevented her from having medical attention. Do you honestly think anybody's going to believe your bullshit? Well, probably Trump's people.
And so it just, people can revile and hate me for as much as they want. I know where I will stand in the end.
Okay. If you say
Do you
so.
worry about going to prison for the rest of your life?
Well, sir, when I first, like you asked me, at arraignment, I just had this face. Because I could not, I was expecting, here's what I was expecting. I was expecting involuntary manslaughter, or negligent homicide. And, I wasn't, because I got arrested for felony murder. That was what was on the sheet. And then the child abuse charge was added later. So when I went into the courtroom, I was expecting something along the lines of a homicide charge. So I expected, due to the circumstances, a child died accidentally for unknown reasons in our care. Okay, I figured, negligent, I would understand why I would get charged with negligent homicide or involuntary manslaughter, but to be charged with essentially first-degree murder and look at life without the possibility of parole, I was very shocked, and I went to my cell, and I cried, and I laid down flat on my face, and I just cried out in prayer. And I do believe that, God spoke to me and said that he will see me through this. He spoke to me both through his word, and I also received a sign wherein I was praying, and then I looked up, and the sunlight was coming through my window, casting a shadow of the cross on my wall. So whether I am to face the rest of my life in prison, or I am to be vindicated and set free, I'll still serve him wholeheartedly regardless.
You know what? I'm sorry. look, I've been raised in a religious family, and um, God doesn't have your back, dude. Not right now, because you are not remorseful. You killed a child, and not just any child, your own child, through starvation. Dude, um, if you are truly religious, you understand you're going to hell at this point because you have no repentance whatsoever. You're just making excuses for yourself and you're not trying to reform yourself. You fat asshole who fed yourself and starved your kids. Oh my God.
Of course, I don't. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison, but if
Oh, it's
that's how it is to
in.
be, then I accept it. That we're still going to fight it every single. I will appeal. If no decent lawyer is going to represent me, I will self-represent. We'll appeal it to the highest level we can go.
Oh my God, that's going to be so much fun. If this dude tries to actually self represent after all the bullshit he did, rather than actually try and, get out early on good behavior, holy shit, dude. You have no remorse for killing your 10-month-old daughter. Who the hell do you think wants to represent you?
I will fight it all the way. But I am not hopeless. I am not despondent. I am not in despair.
Nobody cares.
And as you know, Seth, you're not the only one that has this belief about doctors and healthcare and whether or not to engage their children in it.
There are a lot of people.
Sure thing. Given what you've gone through, is there something you would say to people who think or thought like you?
Oh my God. Say it, bitch.
Well, like I tried to kind of get at earlier, the story of Abraham and Isaac, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but, God instructed Abraham to bring his child onto the altar. And while human sacrifice in such a way is not a part of our religion, that is not what I'm trying to communicate at all. Please.
He is, though. He's literally trying to communicate a connection to him sacrificing his 10-month-old daughter by starving her to an Old Testament, which, by the way, a lot of the Old Testament stories have been rejected on many cases. But the one he is bringing up right now is where Abraham is, I might be getting them backwards, but because it's been a long time. But Abraham is told by God to sacrifice his son on the altar as like a lamb, right? And then at the last minute, he's like, "Don't do it." Don't do it. But this motherfucker did it. So I don't know how this comparison makes any goddamn sense. But I mean, this is why the atheists around us question our religious beliefs, because obviously it causes mental harm. It causes some mental confusion here, because look at how crazy this motherfucker is. That he's comparing the death of his daughter, his 10-month-old infant, through starvation to an Old Testament story about sacrificing his son on the altar and then being told at the last minute not to do it. Really? For real? That's what you want to go with?
I beg of you, do not chop my words. You will face God for it if you do. The lesson is to say that we have to be willing to go that far in our following of Christ. We have to be willing to give it all up, to put everything on the table for him. And so I commend them for their faith. I believe we were chosen to go through this trial because God has prepared me to be a strong voice for him. Whether I am to be vindicated and set free, and the courts can see that this was truly just, I don't think it's unexplainable, sir. I think that the autopsy was lazily done. I believe that they found the cause of death, and they stopped there. But as we know, I believe something caused her body to shut down that way.
Well, you wouldn't know though, because you never took her to a doctor, right? You never fucking took her to a doctor. She never got any blood work. She never had any, having her weight calculated. So the fact that she was only 8 pounds at fucking 10 months was never noted. You wouldn't know if there's a real problem, a real actual health problem with your daughter, because you were so fucking neglectful that you let her starve to die. So it really doesn't matter if you're like, I don't know, there might have been something else going on. Well, you're not going to know because you never provided any health benefits to your kids. You didn't take them to the pediatrician. You didn't get them vaccinated. You did not have them weighed. You did not see if they were tracking on target for their milestones. You did none of this. And you're like, I don't know, it's not my fault. Because nobody knows. Well, nobody knows because you didn't fucking do your job as a dad to actually make sure that they were going to regular visits, you dumbass piece of shit.
I will say also that I had a farm animal, a goat, just a couple days before, who died of...
I'm sorry, what's a harm animal? I mean, I've heard of getting a therapy animal where you need some assistance where they're going to make you feel better in life. What is a harm animal, please? Because I got attacked by an attack dog 1.5 years ago. So I'm a little curious about what you consider to be a harm animal.
Just a couple days before, who died of the exact same way. He had food, he had water. I even watched him eat. And he still just wasted away before my eyes.
So even given what you know now, you don't wish that you had been taking her for regular treatment from a pediatrician?
Well, here's the thing, sir. I just don't... like I said, it seems to me, from what I see, not only from what I see with my own 2 eyes going on among the people of this nation, but also the statistics that are out there that you can find that aren't readily published on the news or talked about in mainstream education, but you can find them if you look. I mean, it's dangerous to take your kid to the doctor's office these days. It is. It just plain is.
How so?
And, if you don't do what they say, if you don't buy what they want you to buy so that they can make some money off you, for the love of money.
That's some bullshit, dude. I've literally been prescribed stuff that I've said, look, I tried it out and it didn't work for me. Why do you think you can't have a conversation with your doctor? What's wrong with you? Why are you so fucking paranoid? Oh my God, you were in jail right now because you killed your daughter and you thought you couldn't have a conversation with your doctor. And that's what it boils down to, you stupid ass piece of shit. I have had these conversations with doctors for fucking decades. You know what? This one has some side effects that are not working with me. Can we try something else out? Are you literally that fucking weak that you can't have a conversation with your doctor and say something's not working for you? Oh my God, what a clown. Oh my God, I can't even with this guy. He's such a clown. But on top of it, he's a murderer because he fucking killed his 10-month-old infant.
Money is the root of all kinds of evils. They'll call the government on you. I had it happen, sir. prescribed my daughter a head-shaping helmet because her head was like 1 millimeter out of round. This head-shaping helmet cost almost...
Maybe, dumbass, you should have actually like taken care of your children so that their heads were not getting misshapen. Maybe you should have actually paid some fucking attention to your children so they weren't lying in the crib for 16 to 18 hours by your own goddamn testimony. These are kids, dude. They're not supposed to be sleeping that long. And yes, they have soft spots in their heads when they're little. Their heads, their skulls are still forming. How can you be such a monster? How can you be? I can't even.
$4,000. When we refused to purchase this helmet from him, he forged paperwork against us. Okay? He gave my daughter Elizabeth a clean bill of health. Okay? And sent us out the door. No problems. But then after we refused to purchase this product from him, he then added onto the paperwork after we were already gone, and then gave a different set of paperwork to CPS claiming that was malnourished. Like I said, we had our little girls are skinny, okay? So, but he never told us was malnourished until we refused to purchase this product from him.
So, is it your older daughter?
Yes, my middle daughter.
So,
Yeah.
so CPS investigated you for her being malnourished as well?
Well, here's the thing, but she was slightly underweight. I was called chicken legs when I was a kid. They found nothing wrong. We were exonerated. We were let go.
You know what, dumbass? Seriously, like, I had claw feet when I was a kid. I had to wear special shoes to correct my feet because they were curling in, right? But you know what my parents did? They agreed with the doctors and actually bought the shoes, you dumbass, so that they could correct the formature of my feet. Because that's what normal parents do, you dumbass, is they actually take their doctor's advice and roll with it. If you have a side effect from a medication, sure, talk about it with your doctor. But like seriously, like you're being told your children are malnourished. You're doing something wrong. We're trying to give you the right advice so that your kids are going to be healthy and grow up. And you, dumbass, are sitting around eating pizza and drinking beer and getting fat as fuck while your kids are starving to death. You're such an asshole that you deserve everything you get in life. And if you think God's going to save you, God doesn't appreciate this kind of stuff, dude.
Without any penalty at all. And like I said, the doctor was...
Okay, we've got like 10 seconds left. Anything else you want to make sure we include?
I can't even.
That we are saved by the grace of God only, and not by works of our...
In June of 2020, Seth was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced.
He got cut off, you guys. Okay, he got a sentence of first-degree murder. That's what they just said. Let's go back to it.
Life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Good.
Shortly thereafter, Tatiana would turn on her husband and claim that she was not guilty of her charges, as Seth had been abusive towards her and physically stopped her from taking care of the children. Her case was unsuccessful, as she was also sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
I think that's entirely fair because it does seem like, especially with the conversations that we saw, it does seem like she was entirely a willing accomplice. It doesn't seem like there was some sort of codependent relationship going on there, but it does not seem like she was doing this out of love for her children. Like she was scared or like she was literally in a codependent relationship in which she's like, oh my God, he's so good in the sack, this fat ass bitch who apparently eats pizza and beer all the time. She deserves it. She clearly didn't care about her kids, right? So good. They're both life sentences. I'm so glad to hear that because that's some like I don't like to hear death sentences. I don't think we should ever do death sentences because there could, like, if you give them life sentences and there's like new information presented that can like get them off the hook, I'm fully in favor of that. Like, if you can prove that somehow you were, um, sentenced with not all the information presented, I think that that should be available to everybody. Um, I don't think that we should have death sentences. Um, Especially also because they go into immediate appeals and it just becomes a very complicated process. But if you give them life sentences with no possibility of parole, then they can try and challenge it if they can present new information that might like get them off the hook. And I think that's the better scenario because if we made a mistake, which I don't think they did in this case, um, then they can at least challenge it in court. But it's the appeals process is also very complicated because it's not like you get to present new information. You have to, in order to appeal, you have to present that there was something that went wrong with the first court case, basically, or the appeals process or whatever. Like in the hierarchy of how this goes. You have to be like, well, somebody fucked up and there was a procedural error, which is weird to me. I don't think that that's necessarily how our justice system should work. But I would rather incarcerate them and have them have those type of sentences than be sentenced to death because like I don't want to fucking be like I don't want that on my soul. I'm a Catholic, y'all. I don't want that on my soul that I'm like sentencing somebody to death. Um anyway, they killed their 10-month-old and they're lying about it and it's so crazy. So I'm glad they're in prison. This is so crazy. Okay, all right. That's it. That's um part 5, part 6. Might be part 6. I'm a little confused how long it took to get this done.